Hello everyone. So we are going to discuss about the King's Gambit. So I have prepared some opening lines. Related to King's Gambit, one of the very aggressive opening move. So we should know about this exact move orders because it's a very aggressive move. One wrong step may lead to a disaster. So let's take a look at the moves one by one. There are just less than maybe 20 lines I have prepared. So we are going to discuss about that step by step. So yeah, white will start with e4, which is the by far the most popular move, which is a nice move. Yeah. So we are going to reply with e5. King's Gambit starts with 2f4. So this is the King's Gambit, and already it is like maybe uh, not even in the top 5 choice. So it's like maybe top 10, something like that. It's very rare. Many players are not doing this nowadays. Used to be very popular in the olden days. So F4. So after F4, so the best way to refute a gambit is to accept the gambit. So here, pawn takes pawn is of course the the best way to continue. But it's lead to a very complex position after pawn takes pawn. For a slight advantage, playing that position maybe uh, not practical. So there is another move, which is again this move is also not played that much. So here, let me get the stat. Wait, actually, it is played frequently at the top level. Blitz games. Yeah. So pawn to d5, of course. That's the second best try. Pawn d5, immediately striking in the center. So now, if they capture the pawn, we will capture it back. So already clarifying the situation here in the center. So if they get the pawn, we are going to take it back. And now, yeah, both pawns are a little weak. Our pawn is overextended, might we get it, captured by this bishop, and we may get this d5 pawn. Yeah. So now knight f3 is the most played move in this position. Knight f3. If you reach this position, you will see this a lot. Knight f3, just continuing the development, but they did create some weakness. That's why black position is slightly preferable. So now, after knight to f3, we are doing knight f6 again. Popular reply to knight f3. So we are attacking the pawn on d5 twice. We don't want to take with the queen, so we may consider capturing with the knight. So then bishop c4, bishop b5, c4. Yeah, many moves are played in this position. c4 also tried heavily. So we are going to reply with after, yeah, let's take a look at the bishop c4 and then bishop c4, they are defending the pawn. Actually, we can take it. So we can capture the pawn. There are some other moves as well, like queen e7 check. So all these moves are popular. So we are doing knight takes d5, which is the most popular try. So we are grabbing the pawn. Why not? If the bishop takes, we will take with the queen. Yes, moving queen too early, but it's a pawn and it's not much they can attack, and we will run away easily. So after bishop takes the knight, we take it back and knight c3. So now we can give this check, and that may lead to a queen trade. If they move the king, we achieve something. And also we should not take this move lightly. moving the king, they are planning to enter the key. So it's important to move the queen again and give a check to the king. Yeah, so this is one line, and still black is in a very good shape. Yeah. So in this position, after knight takes, they most probably place will not give the bishop. They will do the castle. So simply castle. Yeah, keeping the king still. Yeah, it's still in the open spot, not very safe. Yeah, we can get the tempo by bishop c5, but even then the pawn can block, and it's not that useful. Okay, so in this position, we should somehow develop and then do the castling, otherwise rook e1 is coming. So bishop e6 makes a lot of sense. We move the bishop and block the line. The king is feeling safe now, and our pawn on f5 is safe for a time being. It is safe, and queen e2 happen. We need to this is not yeah, not the most popular try. Here, strong players are doing bishop b3, moving the bishop backward, keeping it at the protected spot. Yeah, even bishop d5, surprisingly, this move worked well. Bishop d5, I mean, online players won with this bishop d5. Um, so after bishop d5, we can do queen d5. So, but yeah, so pawn d4. This position is again okay. Practically, they will get this pawn back, and then yeah, it is still equal position, or maybe black is even doing slightly better than white. Okay, queen e2 happen, and then we will develop the knight to c6. So bring pieces to the party. Queen e2 is not putting any pressure. We have the queen defending the knight. So then knight, oops. So actually, yeah, bishop e6, queen e2. Then we did knight c6, pawn d4. So they want to grab the pawn on f5. So activating bishop is important. So they push the pawn. So now we will play queen d6. So we just activate the queen. Maybe we will castle long in the future. So knight c3, knight bishop to d2. It's not that useful. Maybe they should try to get the pawn in one go. So yeah. So in this position, the knight developing, and maybe it's aiming to enter b3. It's adding support to the knight on f3. So yeah, we will as usual castle long. So that's the whole point of moving the queen to d6. Then white might activate the knight, knight e4, and then bringing the other knight to f3. This is one idea in a knight e5 idea. So if they try this already, there is a tactic. We can grab the pawn here. So the beauty is we got everything covered, even the pawn has support. So we'll take the pawn attacking this queen. And also the queen should keep an eye on this knight. Queen should keep an eye on this pawn. Otherwise we'll grab and attack the rook. So yeah, already there is a problem for them. So if they try knight e5. So they could try knight e4, knight e4, then we can simply move the queen backward. For example, e7, d7, any square. So now white will struggle to get the f5 pawn, f4 pawn actually, without losing the bishop pair. Yeah, so we are happy to get the bishop pair. And h7, g5, the pawn storm is coming. So white position is totally fine, but there are some weakness. The king side, the diagonal is open. So yeah, I prefer black here. So this is line. So let's review. After e4, we did e5, pawn f4, d5. It's the second best try. So if they capture the pawn, we will take it back. And then development is a key. We will develop the piece. And yeah, we never mind giving the knight to the bishop, and then activate and block the E line, bishop E6, then queen D6, knight C6, simply developing quickly. Fast development, you should do quick castling, yeah, castling long. And then knight E4 attacking the queen, you just move away, and we are asking question what you want to do next, and there is not much. So yeah, black got a comfortable position. Let's take a look at another variation, E4, E5, F4, D5, and yeah, E takes D5, and E takes F4. So far we discuss knight F3, knight F6, attacking the pawn on D5, then bishop C4, knight takes D5. So far everything covered. So here, after knight takes D4, castling, and then we discuss about the bishop E6. Then we talked about D4 ideas, then knight D2, planning to enter knight E4 to attack our queen. So they might try bishop B3, just moving it back to the same spot. Two pawns are defending the bishop. So as usual, we can develop the knight. Knight always, yeah, most of the time belongs C6, knight squared. And black is ready with, even we can do F6, castling long. And yeah, I don't see a point how they can win this pawn on F4. So yeah, knight F6, very simple. I mean, after this queen F6, a long castle. So in this case, queen D6, let's see what they can do. Pawn D4 is a natural looking. Yeah, we can do queen F6 just to support the pawn directly. Queen D6, maybe it will run into this annoying fork, which is unnecessary. We can survive by doing long castle, but which is not yeah, not a good idea. So yeah, we will play after knight C6. We will continue with queen F6 long castle. So yeah, this is what you should do after bishop move to B3. And yeah, let's go through from the start again. E4, E5, every variation we are going to do from the start. F4, D5, then E takes D5, E takes F4. So knight F3, knight F6, then we discuss about, yeah, bishop C4 is the move we just covered. And knight C3 is maybe, yeah, it's a fourth popular try, helping the pawn in a different way. So knight C3, we will do the same thing. It's easy to remember, knight takes the pawn. And if the knight takes, we are happy to bring the queen outside. So we are totally fine with that. So bishop C4, they can put pressure on the knight. Now we should do something about this. Bishop to C4 attacking our knight. And you can also pause whenever you want and try to make a decision, and then unpause. You just check with the answer. So here, I'm recommending knight takes knight. So if we move the knight backward, we are losing some time in the opening. It's better to, yeah, nothing wrong with the trade. Even, yeah, we are creating a double pawn, but that is not the point. Actually, that pawn helps them to activate the bishop and queen. So we want to just, we don't want to lose time in the opening. I mean, the moves. So knight takes c3. And if they capture with the d pawn, they could capture with either pawn. But the b takes c3 played more than 100 times. So d takes, we can help this pawn rather than taking the queen on d1. So taking the queen is possible. Of course, it's not a bad move. They lose the right to castle. Okay, and then you can continue with d6. Okay, if you like the end game, you can go for it. But yeah, otherwise you simply develop with the bishop. So b takes c3, you will see. Then bishop d6. Just develop and then help the pawn. So once you help the pawn, yeah, we are also clearing the line. We can castle soon. And rook e1. And I don't see a point how they can win this pawn on f4. It's extra pawn. So yeah, that's what you should know about this line, knight c3. As usual, you take the d5 pawn and then trade the knight, bring the bishop, do the castling. You are good to go. And another variation in knight c3, e4, e5, f4, d5. And e takes d5 is the move we are discussing. What is the move we should do? Is it queen d5? Never. So we will play e takes f4. So we grab the pawn. And then knight f3. Yeah, developing the knight we discussed. Knight f6 is the move. And then here we talked about bishop c4, knight f3, knight c3 we discussed. So knight to c3. And we capture the pawn. They played bishop c4 and then we grab the knight. And now the d takes c3. We discussed about this, but I just show you the variation queen takes queen. But here we can develop with the bishop. This is a move I'm recommending. Black castle next to safety. Any queen check is not going to worry black. We will simply, let's say queen moving to e2. I don't mind trading the queen. So after this, I can even play king e7. So I don't care because they don't have a queen to attack my king. So it's totally fine. So yeah, queen e2 is not a concern. And bishop d6, they can castle, we can castle. And then followed with the move queen f6, knight c6. Yeah, so we don't mind trade on c6. We will develop the bishop. There are plenty of good square g4, f5. After the castling, castling is a priority now. Yes, so this is knight c3. And one more variation in knight c3. You can go through the moves e4, e5, f4, d5, pawn capture, v capture, knight f3, knight f5. So just f6, develop the knight, attack the pawn. They are developing the knight, and we grab the pawn. So what if they capture? Previously, we discussed about bishop c4. We traded the knight, and what if they capture? Of course, we will capture it back. And now they are claiming that, okay, nothing helping f5, f4. But actually, it's very good position for black. We are enjoying the center. The queen is really, really nicely placed. Okay, and then in this position, d4, and they should immediately bring the bishop to attack the pawn. That's the point. That, right? So pawn to d4. So in this position, I would not say bishop d6. Even though it is fine, maybe in the future it may get it with this one. They will gain some time. We can escape like this with a check. And yeah, they can grab space. And usually I don't like them to give a tempo. So yeah, so we can easily simply do bishop e7 and bishop to e7 is the second most tried move. Bishop d6 certainly not a very bad try, but I would like to block the e line, no checks, and yeah, let them take the pawn. So if they capture the pawn here, already they are losing game. Okay, you can pause the video if you want. Take some time. How will you win the unprotected piece? Great. So if you found e4, well done. So you are attacking the king and also the bishop, and there is no good way of saving the bishop. Bishop blocks the king, blocks the check. We will anyway get the bishop. So yeah, bishop b4 is a silly mistake. Bishop d3, they are developing as usual and they are planning to castle. So I like to keep the pawn on f4. I don't see, okay, after I mean, the way to help the pawn is to bring the pawn to g5. So in the main line of accepting the gambit immediately, we usually do this g5 move rather quickly. But here, our position is not crazy. It's still very solid, and we are helping the pawn. And yeah, I don't see a point how they can win the pawn. So yeah, they got some active pieces here. The bishop is active. Knight maybe get hit by the pawn. But one bishop can't do much here. So bishop e7 just protects the pawn. Queen is protecting the pawn. We have a nice position. So yeah, so this is all about knight c3. This is all of the things you should know about. So let's move on to the d4 move. We have a lot of d4 moves to cover, and we will see that whole 5d4 move briefly next video. So now I am just going to um, just quickly revise the thing that we covered. So just 5 variation we learned. So we discuss about Queen King's Gambit after e4, e5, pawn f4. So here we discuss about taking the pawn or just doing a d5 move. It's attacking the center pawn. So we have to play in the center. Don't do silly moves like moving the a pawn for beginners out there. So try to play close to the center. So in the King's Gambit, you should play aggressively, right? So pawn to d5, let them take the pawn. The key thing we learned is the variation. This is the same at bishop c4. We are going to take this pawn on d5 even after they develop the knight and help the pawn, or the bishop and help the pawn. We will take the pawn, and we never mind trading the knight on c3. We never mind trading the knight on d5, the queen, and then sometime you can do g5 to help the pawn. I'll make sure the e line is blocked at the time. So knight c6 usually a good square for the b8 knight, and then bishop d6 or bishop e7 depending upon white's play. Queen f6, long castle might be a plan in some cases. Yeah, so try to rewind the video. If you have any doubts, please post in the comment section. Yeah, so hope you all enjoyed it. So more parts are coming. Thanks for watching.